My first guest, he's no stranger to the show. Daren Martin joins me. He's an author, he's a speaker, and he has a new association coming up. He got a couple books in front of me, which I don't think were here the last time you were in my studio.
What the heck?
What the
How's
heck?
that possible?
I know. How is that possible?
Yeah, it's just been way too long, dude. So.
Well, you look good.
You look fantastic
nice and healthy
yourself.
And strong and out there hitting the circuit. I know that I saw you've been very busy on the radio, very busy in doing all your media.
I mean, I did like 12 interviews or something crazy like that this morning, starting at 6 in the morning. But this is the one I was looking forward to, dude.
Yes.
I was really excited about being back on air with you. So, I don't know if you know this. Work sucks for a lot of people across this country, right? I mean, in fact, the statistics say 85% of people, now this is staggering, say they hate their job. There's only 15% that say they love their job. Now, I'm going to bet you're in the 15%.
I am. And Ben, I'm going to go ahead and speak for Ben. Ben's in the 15% as well.
Ben's not one of that group that's getting ready to quit, right?
No, he's not.
The story's getting all that ink on.
With me, I've had worser jobs than what I have now. So I am very grateful.
Well, see, that kind of puts it in perspective, doesn't it? But we have a massive crisis going on right now that I don't think people are really aware of. They feel it. They know it. By the way, when you say people hate their jobs, when they were asked what is one thing that would make you happy, they didn't say a great spouse. They didn't say my kids turning out well. They said a great job. Okay, that's how integral it is to kind of just our happiness as people. So we got a lot of unhappy people out there, and why is that? Why is it so bad?
Well, do you think that people? Okay, like talk about the midlife crisis, in other words. Somebody that might be in their mid-40s, maybe they're 50, and all of a sudden they realize, I'm not doing what I thought I would be doing at this point in my life. I'm not in the career I want. I'm not enjoying my career. And so maybe I think a lot of people base their happiness overall on their career and their identity in their job.
Yeah, and what happened is a long time ago, we just started going to work to get a paycheck.
Yes.
That's it. I mean, that's the payoff, right? I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do, and then you're going to give me some money for it. And we sucked the life right out of work. Work historically has been meaningful, as something you're passionate about. You wanted to do this career or that career. I mean, you remember when you were a kid, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be, and now it's just part of the grind, right? You got to go to work. And I think what we're seeing is an incredible shift. We're going through the biggest shift in the history of ever in terms of just the way we do everything else, right?
Everything.
The way we shop, the way we travel, the way we, connect, the way we date, all of this with the digital age. Work has not changed. It hasn't adjusted to the times. So you've got all of these people that on one level are starting to evolve into just a completely different way of thinking and a way of doing their life. And then they go back into work and it's like, something from 30 years ago. It's that whole, get off my lawn, still kind of old structure, old systems, punching a clock. You got to be here at 8:30.
Well,
craziness.
Do you think that you look at your parents? Because my parents obviously are much older, but I saw the grind they went through. My mom was an educator. Going to school, principal, do all this. And my dad was in the insurance business.
Sure.
Punching the clock, doing the daily grind. And I look back and I go, I don't really want to do that. I want to kind of sail my own ship here.
None of us do. And that's the thing. We look back, I call that old manism when people go, well, I don't know what you're complaining about. Back when we just went to work and we just, it was a grind, but we did it.
By the way, the pensions don't exist.
It's all
anyway.
gone. It's all gone. I mean, companies I'll tell you the one area they have completely changed on is any kind of incentive to hang around for a while, right? We live in a way where a company environment where pensions are gone, the gold watches are gone, and then we kind of wonder why people are jumping ship. The new generation is changing jobs every year and a half, every 2 years, so that they can level up. And I mean, how can you blame them?
No.
But I think I think, Brian, the big breakdown when you really get into, I'm going to give you a few statistics. Now, follow the math on this and see if you think there's a correlation. Okay. This is not going to be tough math.
I'm bad at math.
So I'm bad at math, too. But I think we will all be able to get this. 16% of executives say their company culture is where it needs to be. Okay?
Only
16%.
Okay.
15% employee engagement across the country and across the globe, and only 15% of people say they like their jobs. Does it seem like there might be some correlation?
Yes, the numbers are very same.
Between getting the culture right. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my interviews this morning was with a radio station in San Diego, and I said, "Look, why do people move to flock to San Diego? Because they love the environment."
Yeah.
The weather, the offerings, you got the beach, it's just, there's so much there. And then we expect people to go into work into the Sahara Desert.
Sure.
And be pleased about their environment. We've got to rethink. We've got to really come up with a completely new paradigm that's going to fit for the modern person if work's going to be successful.
Daren Martin is our guest in the studio, author, speaker. We're going to talk about his 2 books here. Plus, you've got a new association coming up, and I just got a VIP card to that. You hear right there? It's right there. It's interesting. You and I both can walk into a company, and within probably 10 minutes of just kind of walking around the lobby, observing, watching employees, maybe having a small chat with some employees, we can tell what that company culture there is like. And I don't want to name drop companies here in Dallas that I could, that are very good, that I think do it right. But there's a lot of companies that just absolutely do it wrong.
I absolutely agree. You can feel it. It's the air you breathe when you walk in. You can tell with the urgency or how people take care of you. So, it's easy to think about that with, one of the companies I talk about in my book, A Company of Owners, way back, is the Ritz-Carlton. Everybody goes, yeah. Well, it's easy to get your culture right, high dollar.
Sure.
Think about In-N-Out Burger, okay? You go into In-N-Out Burger, there's a culture feel in there, and contrast that with, and they'll go unnamed, but another very large burger chain that you don't have that same sense, right? When you walk in, everybody just kind of like, I'm have to work here because I couldn't get a job anywhere else.
Yeah. And Chick-fil-A is the same as In-N-Out.
Yes,
for the most part.
Yeah, they're selling burgers. Yeah. So I was talking to somebody earlier, and they were like, "Well, I think it has to do with the importance of the job and the work you're doing." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Zappos years ago had people lined up around the block to get a $12 an hour call center job, and they're selling shoes online, 800 numbers, right? Taking those calls. Why did people want to work for Zappos so passionately? You were actually more likely to get into Harvard University than you were to get a job at Zappos.
Daren Martin is our guest in the studio. We want your opinion. We want your calls. We want to know what it's like if you work at a company, and why do you work there? You don't have to name the company now, but you can say maybe what's the best thing about working at your company. And, of course, we want to know what are some of the worst jobs you've had as far as the company cultures. We'll do all that. Website for you, though, real quick. I want to make sure we get all this out.
It is globalcompanycultureassociation.com.
There you go. A few more minutes. We'll come back. Daren Martin is our guest. Give us a few minutes. All right, welcome back. 3:21 on this Thursday. We are talking about office culture and how is the culture in your office. Daren Martin is our guest. He is an author, he's a speaker, and he's got this latest association that he's created, and you've got a kickoff party next week. Let's talk about why you started this association.
We started it because of the problems that we're talking about, that there needs to be a dramatic shift in the way we think about work. And until we get together and start having the conversation, there's a lot of people out there talking about it. In fact, if you Google company culture, you're going to get somewhere between 3 and 6 billion, reference points or hits, going on that. So there's books coming out about it. People are speaking about it. Every CEO is wringing their hands saying, how can we attract and retain top talent? How do we increase employee engagement? And nobody seems to have the fix to that puzzle. And it's because we're trying to do it the way we've always done it. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be a complete reinvention. When we were hunters and gatherers, and then you moved into farming, that required different skill sets, different setup. When we went into factories, all of a sudden, that's a whole different deal, right? Mm-hmm. Then when you go into offices and you go into corporate world, that's a completely deal. And we're ready for that next iteration. And the Global Company Culture Association, that's a mouthful, Brian. Can you say that 17 times fast? is the gathering place for everybody who is really passionate about making the world of work a better place, because it impacts every single person out there who's listening. If only 15% of people say they love their jobs, why don't we have everybody loving their jobs? We every year, organizations give out the 100 best places to work. You know how many companies there are in the United States alone, much less around the world?
Right.
Why is not every company a best place to work? So you were talking about one in the break, D Magazine, just mentioned locally, and that's actually where I met my lovely bride,
I love
Elise.
it. And I did not know that, so I thought
she was the director
ironic.
of First Impressions, did a great job, and I went in. They were doing a little. I was a subscriber of the month in September of, I can't remember what year. At any rate, so we met there, and when we got married, and then I said, "Baby, let's go build an empire, and why don't you quit your job and let's work together." The only thing she would have said no to that with was going back to D Magazine, okay, because it was just such a fun and appealing thing. And by the way, you've got the big D party tonight and all that, but you can feel it when you walk into a place where people love to come to work. You can tell by the way people talk about it. I did a keynote recently for Select Medical, massive. They got 46,000 employees, places all over the U.S. And I knew that they were not lying to me when they said they had a great culture. When I was standing in line with one of their employees in the coffee line, and she said, we started talking, and she said, "Oh yeah, well, my mom works there, my grandmother, my children, my cousin, my neighbor, because why? She had recruited them all. Companies hire big recruiting firms, which is great, to try to go out and find this talent. But your best recruitment in a great culture comes from your own employees who are saying, you've got to come get a job here. Come check this out. This is incredible. I love coming to work every day."
Yeah. Daren Martin is our guest in the studio. We're talking about office culture. I had a chance to go out to Google this past February. An amazing experience. You want to talk about employee engagement, employee benefits, just the overall work experience. I mean, for crying out loud, you could jump on a skateboard or a bicycle or a line bike and go from campus to campus. You want a coffee shop? We got it. Want to dry cleaners? We got it. Wash your car? Whatever. And the two contexts I have there said it's the greatest company we've ever, and it's the only company, though, that they've ever worked for. So they don't know how to compare it to, but they've really gone out of their way to make Google the place and the standard of kind of that work-life culture.
Because they get it. They get what Herb Kelleher got when he said, take care of your employees, and your employees will take care of the company. And in a rapidly changing job market, the fact that it's the only company they work for, which says what every CEO's magnum opus is: can we attract and retain top talent? So we are so excited about the Global Company Culture Association. It's going to be epic in a lot of different ways. It'll have a big conference. In fact, it's called the Epic Culture Conference. And right now, I mean, if you go to it, it's a placeholder. But as of next Wednesday, that website's going to open up, and I think people are going to be stunned at what it not only looks like, but what it's going to create. There's going to be a publication with it. Company Culture Magazine, which does not exist. I mean, it's just got all of these other arms and tentacles with it that is really going to equip leaders, CEOs and leaders who are scratching their heads, CHROs, HRB, who are scratching their heads saying, how do we fix this? We're going to pull together the information we need to actually fix it so that we can move out of the space that we're in right now that is so depressing.
Especially when the unemployment's so low, you have to really battle for key employees.
Absolutely, because we're sitting on the lowest unemployment, that we've seen in a really long time. And so it's definitely a buyer's market. They get to move and go, and you better, if you want to have the biggest competitive advantage, is to have a great company culture. Because you were telling an example of somebody went out to take a job, he walked in the door and said, no way, walked out, and now he's in a place that he absolutely loves, and you could not probably drag him away from that. So that's the best. And if none of that makes any sense to anybody out there, especially the C-suite, this ought to get their attention. One Harvard study showed when companies get their culture right, they see an increase to their net profitability of 765%. Now, wrap your arms around that. Who doesn't want a 765% increase to their net profitability over the course of 10 years? Conversely, by not having a great company culture and by having low engagement, I think that's the largest silent tax on every company across the globe.
All right, the website for you one more time.
www.globalcompanycultureassociation.com. Like I said, you're going to get a placeholder today, but by next Wednesday, you're going to see an amazing array of opportunities on there.
I love it. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue this conversation. I want to get your thoughts on the office logistics in general. Cubicles, half cubicles, full cubicles, which one's best for communication? We'll do that when we come back. Stick around. Welcome back. 3:35. If that music does not get you fired up to go to work, I don't know what will.
Same thing.
All right, we are talking to Daren Martin. I love him. I love when he comes in the studio. I learn a lot, and I feel like I connect with you on a bunch of different levels. We talked about how, you know, the average U.S. worker, let's just talking millennial, the mindset's a little different than you and I. We're a little bit older than your typical millennial. I had my daughter come up to me last week and said, "Dad, do you enjoy what you do for a living?" And so I'd explained to her that I'm pretty much doing everything that I enjoy. I don't really have any aspect of any job that I don't like. So yes, I'm blessed to do what I do for a living. And I think more and more kids at a younger age are starting to look at their careers as being, am I going to be happy over, let's just punch the clock and make the money? But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
And I'll go be happy in the other third of my life, right?
Okay,
which is
point.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I love how I hear people have been in business a long time. They rag on millennials. They rag on this generation. Most of what they say, if not all, is just flat out not true. But we kind of seem to forget that the biggest checkout generation of all was the 60s. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, you're right.
They were checking out. I want to smoke dope and write poetry and, hang out on a commune.
Liberal arts degree.
So this is not new. This generation is checking out, but not in that way, in a much more productive way. They're saying, hey, I want to go to work. I want to make money, but I don't want to sell my soul to the company. I don't want to be a part of that chain gang, right? And think about the way we talk about work. We still talk about up and down the chain.
Right.
We need a whole lexicon change.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is they're only asking for what everybody, I don't care what your age is, wants anyway. You want to do something meaningful. You want to make a difference in some way. You want to be compensated and get advanced for hard work, right? Which is not always the case. And you want to have a life outside of work. Mm-hmm. Europe has been ragging on us for a long time. They say in America, in Europe, they live to work to live, and in the U.S., we live to work, which is very true. Mm-hmm. And I saw a stat a while back that the average person works more than a serf did under, the medieval system. So it's, great on this generation that they're saying, hey, I don't want to just do anything. I want to do something that has an impact or that has some meaning and some value to it.
Well, how do you change that? Let's just say you and I are CEOs of our companies, and we're like, okay, how do we immediately change what's the first thing we can do to help change the mindset here?
So the first thing you can do is there's a proverb that says, a Chinese proverb says, the beginning of wisdom is calling things by the right name. You've got to take
I got to write that down.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? You've got to take a scathing assessment, because what I find is what most companies say their culture is, the gobbledygook on the wall and a mission statement, and what you find out when you go out and talk to the person down the hall, it's dramatically different. And the bigger the gap between what you say, how you say you operate as a culture, and how you actually operate, the more dysfunctional the company. And there's some pretty big gaps out there. So first, you got to be honest about what's really going on. Go out, talk. Have some conversations in a trust environment where people can say, I'll tell you why we hate coming into work. And then you got to start, also talking and finding out what would make a difference. What would you like that would help this be a better place to work? And much to people's surprise, it's not all foosball tables and free lunches, right? It's, hey, why don't you update my, 20-year-old computer so I'm not watching the wheels spin all day? Or, hey, why do we have all these, bureaucratic, systems in place that keep me from being effective? Or, hey, why just because you're a senior exec do you get to park in the front and I get to park in the dirt lot out in the back? I mean, it's some really practical, significant things that just put a drain on the way people feel about work.
Ben, can you agree with? I agree with everything you just said. Ben, are you with me on that?
Agreed. Yes.
Agreed. I think
I saw your car out there. Your car curb parked right there. There was a valet guy just
for me here.
It was valet just for you. No, I'm kidding.
No, but it's interesting you said about the equipment. People want to do their jobs, and if they feel like the equipment is holding them back, if the printer doesn't work, it always gets jammed, or the computer's always freezing up, or for whatever reason, that makes people mad. I mean, and that's only trying to serve the company.
I had a guy one time. I was doing some culture work out at a refinery. Okay, and I go out yeah, tell me about it. So I'm out in the control rooms. I'm talking to him. I come back and they're saying things like, "Hey, we've got 6 pumps. 3 of them are broken, and they've been that way for months." So I go back to the plant manager. And I said, "Listen, they're complaining about the right things. They're not saying we need more snacks in the break. They're saying we could perform at a higher level if you'd fix this stuff." And he said to me, "Well, if they expect everything to work all the time, that's just not going to happen." I said, "All right, go home. Tell me which of your appliances it's okay for it to be out for 3 months, and you're still going home, right?
Yeah.
Without getting just the crap beat out of you."
Sure.
Because we wouldn't operate that way. We tend to think about work in a different way. Well, that's just what you have to put up with. How many times have you been on the phone with, let's say, a communication company or something, customer service trying to solve a problem, and heard these words? "Sorry, the system is moving really slowly right now." That just says to me that the company is not providing them the tools to take care of people.
Absolutely. Daren Martin is our guest in the studio, author, speaker. He's got a great event. Now, is it open to the public next week?
Yes.
Okay.
Reach out.
No.
If you say it's okay for them to come, then it's okay for them to come.
Connect with me, and I'll connect you with him. And we do want to make sure that we get the right people there at this event.
we've got a limited venue, let's just say, but it's going to be cool, Brian. We got a red carpet. Paul Salfin's going to be out there. Real News is going to be out there. We've got the great Cash Payne in the house right now.
Jeff Crilly and the gang. And let's talk about a company culture for a second about those guys.
Okay.
Because you walk in the door there, and it's all smiles, and it's positivity, and it's creativity flowing out of every single person in that venue.
They're passionate about what they do, and I mean, we just heard off camera, which is where the real story comes out. And Cash was just saying, "Man, I love it there.
Yeah.
I've worked in some other environments, great, fine, but it's a blast going to work."
Let's talk about cubicles real quick, the logistics of an office. And I know that we did stories on this show maybe a couple years ago where companies were breaking down these full-size cubicles, going to these half ones, and maybe some of them just getting rid of them altogether, going to a more of an open table. And then they found out that wasn't the best, because all of a sudden I can hear every conversation you're saying, and you can hear every personal conversation I'm saying. What do you think works in that logistics setting, or do we go to walls and offices?
So in some cases, that's a company using a cosmetic fix to try to solve what the real root of the problem is, right? That people aren't. Not everybody works well in the same environment. Some people like to be surrounded by people 24/7. Other people need that isolation to be able to think and process. So you've got to create it around what the company is providing. We've got a bad history of doing cookie cutter cultures where you go, "Oh, Google does that, so that's what we should do." No, you're an engineering company. You're not the same thing. So you really have to match it to what's the preference of the people there. If they like it to work at their desk and get one of those, standing very desk puts out where you can stand and provide that. Ask the people that work there what they like and see if you can't fit that.
So that's key, the communication.
Absolutely.
Ask the employees what they want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, so maybe let's talk about vacation time. I know we've done reports on the show that we, here in America, and you said it earlier, we take the least amount of vacation days than any other country, culture on this planet.
And we get the least amount to start with. We get the least, and we take the least. Most people say that the average American leaves 9 vacation days on the table every year. I was doing some culture work at a very large defense contractor, And a lot of the people that had been there a long time took a lot of pride in the fact that they had hit the cap of accrued vacation days. You know what the number was?
How much was it?
450 over. They had accrued, days. They had accrued that much vacation time, right? That they just weren't using.
You can retire almost.
Okay, but think about this typical company, and you say the guy, somebody says to you, "Hey, what are you doing next week?" "Oh, I'm going on vacation." And then the person says this, "Well, I wish I could take vacation."
Yeah, that must be nice.
Instead of going, "Wow, way to go!"
Yeah.
Now contrast that with Netflix. Netflix has a no vacation policy, and the only time they talk to you about your vacation is if you're not taking enough of it. They come and say, "Hey, I noticed you've been around a little while, and
you've worked 90 days straight now.
You need to go take some. You need to go take some time." But 50% of Americans say they're going to work on their vacation. They're going to be expected to respond to emails, and that whole thing is just jacked from the get go. In Europe, you start off with 4 weeks. I was talking to somebody the other day that says you don't get 4 weeks at this company until you've been there 20 years.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I've seen handbooks like that. For grins and giggles, Ben, you want to disclose how many vacation days you have right now? Because I'll give you mine if you give me yours. We'll share here for a second.
I think after I take my vacation in August, I'll have like maybe 65 or 70 hours.
Okay.
So that comes out to...
I'm bad at math.
Almost 2 weeks?
Nice. Yeah, about a week and a half or so.
Okay, week and a half. I had that for a while, and I burned a lot, so I don't think I have any, to be honest with you. I might be pulling sick days, which I'm never sick, by the way. If I'm ever sick, check the house. I could be dead. But I'm going to use them because I do see the value of taking some time off, even if it's just like... Even if you just want to just drive away for the day and just get away from everything. Go down to Austin for a day.
Okay, but look, you're what I talk about in a company of owners. You're an owner. You have an owner mentality.
Correct.
Nobody's telling you what to do and when to do it for the most part, right? And if all of a sudden, magic wand, you had unlimited amount of vacation days, would you abuse it?
No.
No, but you wouldn't have the pressure of even having this conversation about how many hours I have left. And I mean, you would do your job and you would figure out how to make that happen.
So do you think the company culture could reverse almost instantly if a company came out and said, "Look, we're going to redo all of our vacation requirements and we're going to retool it, and this is the new," and it came out being favorable? You think is that a first step?
I think it would be a big first step if it was an act of trust, and I think that could go a long way. I think if they opened up, my daughter just started a job. They have 16 holidays in addition to her, I think, starting with 3 weeks vacation. So they, the craziness
nice.
of if, a holiday falls on a Thursday, and so you take that day off, but you kind of come back in on Friday, and they
just wave it and say,
it's
"We'll see you
just
Monday."
wave it. I mean, come on. I've dealt with some crazy.
Super Bowl should be like that.
I wrote an article about Monday after the Super Bowl should be a holiday.
I
Just
agree.
make it a holiday. Who's no harm, no foul, right? And especially if the Cowboys win, which
Who knows? And that's a hot sports take right there. I don't know if Zeke, he didn't show up to training camp so far. And his place was on the plane, and he didn't show up. So
it's going to be another long year, I'm afraid.
I hope he grows up. I can go off on Zeke. Not go off on Zeke. I got my hot sports take on him.
Yeah.
I think he needs to grow up. I think he has the mentality of a 16-year-old.
All right. So here, this is another prime example. Does the tone of the locker room matter in whether a team wins or not? If there's a lot of discordance, and if it's a bad attitude and all of that, does that have an impact on winning?
Absolutely.
Same is true in company cultures, right?
Good example.
You've got poison. We've got, poisonous employees and people that are just poisoning the well.
I've heard this, and I want to know if you agree with this. Hire slow, fire fast.
Absolutely.
Methodically on hiring the right person, and as soon as you find out who the bad apple is, get rid of them.
This is a great Texas quote. A professor of mine used to say, "How much cow dung does it take to spoil a bowl of ice cream?" Not much,
Not
right?
much.
And I ask people, how many poisonous employees does it take to spoil a company? And I always get the same answer, just one.
Got to get rid of them. Daren Martin is our guest in the studio. If someone wants to book you to come talk to their company and to talk about the company culture or just to motivate their employees, you do that fairly often.
I do. Absolutely. So I'm in and out of all sorts of companies, either, with just a overview type thing or more extended. I'm telling you, the association is going to be taking up a lot of our time. But yeah, I'm always open to helping any way I can, because you can go in and spot pretty quickly what is going on and what needs to change. Then it's just having the willingness to make those changes and take some pretty bold moves.
Yeah. It's always funny when you walk into a lobby of a corporation. You can kind of look around and see, okay, they got the words on the wall, so they're very proud of their accomplishments, or perhaps they have, inspirational sayings. I don't think you've seen our digital surround sound area studios that's on the other side of this building. You'll love it, because you'll walk in there and go, this company gets it. Because I think Salem does get it. And if I'm not mistaken, Ben, fact check me right now. Isn't Salem always on the list of one of the best companies to work for? It's on our email.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's on the signature from the executives. And it's always top company named by so-and-so magazine, whoever does that survey.
Sure.
So I can see it. I see the culture, but this is also a little bit of a faith-based company.
Yep.
So it's all about treating people the way you want to be treated, which I think has a lot to do with that's I think a good beginning.
It boils down, no matter what the company, it boils down to how you treat people and how people feel about how they're treated.
That's true.
Yeah.
Before we go to break, I want to ask you the worst job you ever had and why. Do you remember? Because I had some jobs starting off as a teenager. I taught tennis at a country club, thought it was a great job, made good money, had to deal with a bunch of little kids. I didn't really like that. And then later in life, had some other crappy corporate jobs. Any jobs offhand that you remember?
I worked at a camp for one summer when I was in college, and he made us mow the lawn with a push mower. I'm not talking about a gas push mower. I'm talking about the rotary kind, right?
Oh, no.
And putting tar and gravel on the roofs in Louisiana summer was not exactly the best thing either. So.
That's not a fun job. Did you have any free time on that though? Could you talk it up?
That was the best part of it.
Yeah, but the conditions were.
I have to say I don't think I've ever really had a bad job because I've tried to do what I talk about in Company of Owners. I've always tried to make the best of it, but not everybody's really wired that way.
Well, we talked earlier, and you pull up to a Chick-fil-A, everyone seems very happy, and there's some structure there, there's some training there.
Consistent, and it doesn't matter what state you're in or what city you're in. You're going to get the same service.
You can tell
because they've hardwired it, they've baked it into their system, so it's not just manager dependent. It's really about the system.
All right, we'll take a break. Come back. We'll wrap it up on this Thursday at 4:30. You want to stick around for this? Amazing story about loving your country and getting over adversity. We'll do that in 4:30.
You get you buzzing like neon.
All right, the song is called "Breathe," and sometimes you just got to breathe.
Love it.
You just got to breathe. Take some time. We were talking about office culture, making it the best place that you could possibly want to work. So if you're listening to us right now and you have a department underneath you, you're in charge of HR, you're in charge of hiring people, heck, it's your own company, we're going to give you some advice right now that you could instantly change the culture of your company. You got about 2 minutes, but we can do that.
Here's a big start. Go out and ask people, do some interviews, and say, as long as you've been at this company, how have you grown? How have you improved? Are you better as a person? Are you smarter, faster, more employed because of what we've done here? And if you get blank stares, then you've got to look at, as a company, we're not feeding into people. If people go, oh my goodness, I'm a way better off after being a part of this company, then you're onto something. And either way, you got a decision to make about whether you amplify that or do something different. If you want the best out of people, you got to treat them like people. And we just need to change the way we talk about everything. And you've got to start developing them and let them develop the company, because they'll bring you those great ideas we were talking about. They'll bring you all of the solutions and, great ways to build the company. But if they're disconnected from the company, you're never going to get that stuff.
Yeah. Where does pay fall into all of this?
It's a baseline. I mean, I've never walked into a reputable place and come out and gone, wow, they had clean restrooms, rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
That's just expected. When it's not clean, that's a problem. But pay is just baseline. It's got to be there. You got to build in incentives for people. But there's so much more that's good, that incentivizes people than just money.
Yeah, money's good, but you got to have all the other stuff as well. Okay, well, I tell you what, if people want to get a hold of you and get these books, you can find these books on Amazon.
Absolutely on Amazon. Just look up Daren, Daren Martin, and you can also reach me at Darren@globalcompanycultureassociation.com. Check out the page. It's, like I said, just a big placeholder right now, but in about 7 days, this puppy's going to launch, and it's going to be huge.
And you can also find you on social media, Facebook.
I'm on a little bit of social media.
All right.
Just like you, Brad.
All right, yeah. Stick around, 4:30. Got a special guest calling in and talk about overcoming adversity. Wait till you hear this. This is on a Thursday edition of In the Know. We'll see you.